Whole brand new file.
Just cause too, you can do anything just because.
This game was the last straw.
I see your point, but I still disagree.
Massive RPG zombie game.
Okay, I didn't know we had agreed to that.
From a consumer point of view,
Because it's never gonna change unless we take a stand.
it's supposed to be the parents' responsibility.
How is that fair?
We're not going to talk about
Well,
that.
beggars can't be choosers, but I wish I could be.
Link 584.
Voice go.
Teh Podcast. Hi, this is Link 584,
And I'm Voice go.
and this is episode 2 of Teh Podcast.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today, Foisco?
Zombies!
Zombies.
Nom 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 nom. I eat your brain.
Specifically, what about zombies? Fast versus slow.
Mhm.
So we are going to have this heated debate or mutual agreement. We're not really sure, but with Halloween around the corner in a month from now, less than that, the time of the making of this podcast, because you could be listening to this at Christmas time for all we care. But I personally am a bigger fan of slow zombies.
You know, actually, fan, no fan, I'm gonna take this a different way, and I'm gonna say that if a zombie apocalypse actually happened, I believe that they would be fast at first and then get slower and slower as they started to decay.
That would make a lot of sense, and the realism factor. But since we are,
But see, this is the way I'm gonna take it. So
well, I mean, we guess we did. I mean, it's slow zombies
Because,
versus fast zombies, but we didn't say what about them. So I'm gonna talk more about the aspects of why I prefer slow versus fast, and so you're gonna talk about the aspects of how slow and fast would take place in real life.
because I mean, basically, people are making games more and more realistic as years go by. So I'm gonna take my realistic thoughts about zombies, why they are fast at the beginning and slow at the end, and
then at the end, are you gonna talk about which one that you prefer, slow versus fast, in the end? Because that's more of the point.
I don't know. I don't really think I have a preference. I just have a realist
Point of view.
No, not point of view. I just kind of, I don't know. I see the way that I think it should be.
So
Because-
fast versus slow isn't really something that even, like, when people talk about this versus that, this doesn't actually apply to you, because to you look at it purely, you can't look at it from that point of view. You look at it from a realistic point of view, where this is what would happen, and this is how I feel about how it happens.
Well, why don't you start off with what you think, and maybe I'll get the gist of what you mean.
Okay, well, I'm talking about slow versus fast. And since this is a gaming topic here, I'm going to talk about a couple of if zombies were real, and then I'm going to talk about the gaming aspect of it.
Like Left 4 Dead and Dead Rising and...
Yeah, exactly, like that versus that. Not their gameplay styles, but the zombies themselves. Personally, I always feel if a zombie apocalypse was real, if zombies were fast, that would be extremely scary, because they're fast. And they're going to catch up to you. Some of them, they'll be like, boom, it'll be just like Left 4 Dead, where they'll just catch up to you. But I never believed in the idea of some people being immune. But I mean, there could be, but that's something that I don't want to get into today, because there's so many different topics we could go. But I feel like faster ones would be scarier in a certain light, because they'll catch up to you and they'll get you. So it's not even scary, though. It's more of, there's adrenaline. I feel like the slower ones are scarier, because if you
like
get
a psychological kind of thing.
Exactly, and the psychological seeps in, and you just hear the moans and the groans as they get closer. And if one's right around the corner and you're unsure, it's different from a fast zombie that's going to make its appearance known, its presence known. A slow one could be around the corner, and then when one ends up falling on top of you or something, you're going to be scared shitless out of your mind, because you're like, holy crap, I'm gonna die from a slow freaking creature. There's so many different levels with the slow that the fast does not provide. And that is what I like more about them. And I also feel like if slow zombies were the ones that were real versus fast, that would be a better chance for humanity to live and see a new world one day. And so it's all these aspects about it. If it was real, that when it applies to the gaming sense of things, I prefer the slower ones, because those are the things you want to feel something. Sometimes when you watch a movie, right, you want to feel something, an emotional story. When you're playing a game, people love emotional stories, but then there are people that love the action-packed shooters like Left 4 Dead, and I have no problem with those because I used to play Left 4 Dead all the time. Dead Rising didn't really provide any of the psychological feelings that I feel during a zombie apocalypse, and that's something more for Resident Evil. So there's a little bit of tone of each. But Resident Evil, even then, they had the little sprint walkings and stuff. I really would like to see a true zombie game with slow zombies, and having a huge mob of them is what will cause your demise. And that's what I want to see in gaming, because everything that I've been saying about the realism fact in real life, that applies into gaming. That I want to see.
Okay, well, see, you said a couple of key things that I want to touch back on. One being, you don't believe that people should be immune to the zombie apocalypse, infection, whatever.
Well, it's not necessarily I don't feel it. It's I when I think of zombie apocalypse, I don't think about it. I don't think about immunity.
I do. Because, okay, and this kind of goes back to my realism theory. People are made up of different genes and different, DNA sequences and different, whatnot. What makes somebody's hair, blonde rather than brunette, for an example. Physically, there are going to be different combinations that are going to make people immune.
Yeah, it's just like there's some people when they get a certain illness in real life, when a doctor says the traditional person might have a year left to live, there's those the ones that live for 20 or 40 years.
Right. Okay. So that, I believe in immunity, basically from being sick. And the reason I think zombies will be fast in the beginning, because all of their parts are still fresh for the most part. Okay, and they might not be so, what's the word?
Decayed?
No, contagious. You might not, have a chance to contract the virus from a faster, fresher zombie. But, I think that the more the zombies start to decay and fall apart, the slower they become. They no longer have control over their muscles and how they move, and fluids are flying everywhere, and that's more of a
flies
the
are all
slower
around them.
they are, the more contagious they are. The faster they are, the more you're probably going to get your ass kicked.
And when you also say contagious, do you also mean directly from a bite?
I don't really know exactly how someone would catch zombie. I don't.
I think it's like saliva on the blood. It's kind of like, I think so, like some of today's diseases.
I think breathing in the same, if a zombie got really close to you and was breathing over you, and you were kind of breathing in their air,
if it was long enough and hard enough,
would be what would cause you to get sick. But for an example, a slow zombie, their parts are flying everywhere, blood and saliva and whatnot is just flinging everywhere, and it gets on you and it starts to seep into your skin, or it gets in your mouth or your eyes or your nose or a cut or something. That's dangerous. So fast zombies, fuck, that's scary.
Because also they'll really cause some physical damage to you, but
they could rip you to pieces.
But they might not infect you.
Right. But a slow zombie that's decaying, where you're more likely to turn into your zombie yourself, more dangerous. So,
makes me wonder though, with the idea though, that they're more contagious, that with the slow zombies, if you're breathing in the same air and all, I think something that might happen is if you're breathing in the same air and all stuff, I think since we've always had the traditional idea that you get bit and that's what causes it, kind of like a vampire, I think that if you're breathing in the same air as them and all stuff, I don't think you run a full chance of getting infected, but I think what might happen is you might get sick for a while, and your body will fight off the sickness because it's not a true infection. You weren't bitten, but I think you might be looking at some plenty of rest time, some bedtime, and that might cause your demise because you'll get sick, and you might be bedridden really bad. And if you're not with survivors, that may be your own demise from starving to death and not being able to go find shelter and food.
Okay, yes, but for instance, the common cold is shared by germs that are, passed around by people talking and shaking hands and breathing on people. That's what, anyways, that's what I would imagine the common cold would be like. You catch the common cold by sharing basically the same airspace of someone else who has it.
But it's also just a cold, though.
I know it's just a cold, but I mean, if you are spewing out that kind of, I don't know, germs or, you're
extremely vile germs.
Exactly.
Bad
to get you
infection.
the common cold, then what's going to happen when a zombie is like face to face breathing in your air and you're just taking in everything they're spewing out?
Well, I mean, I think if they're like right on top of you or something and you're getting their moisture into your mouth or something like that, then I think you run an extremely high risk because it's kind of just like this is kind of a vague reference here. I don't mean to get like religious or anything. It's when Pontius Pilate, that's a big thing in Christianity. Pontius Pilate, that's when the man stabbed Jesus in the side and was bleeding out, I believe. And what happened was a drop of Jesus's blood landed directly in his eye.
Oh.
But so the man that did this to Jesus, it was not someone who was a fan of him. And so, but after this blood drop got into his eye, it, in a certain way, infected his body. He became a true devout follower of Jesus. It took over his body. And, after, hearing about things like that, reading about those types of things, I looked at, you could look at these things and apply them to actual, maybe, like, conditions, and if someone got something, some bad bodily fluid into your body, it will change. It will screw you up. Something will happen. If someone had a very contagious disease that only, like some diseases, if you get, like, their blood in your bloodstream or something, then something will happen to you. You'll get their disease. It's that type of ideology that I think with a zombie. You get their saliva and their stuff right in your face. If it was like that and your mouth was open and you got some in there, then I think you're pretty screwed. But if you're near some zombies and they're like a foot away and you just punched one out of the way and quickly dodged by them, I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like a couple feet away and oh my god, you're breathing the same air that the zombies breathing.
No, I meant even like a foot away and you pushed them out of the way and you touched them. I think you'll still be fine, but you'll want to wash your hands after.
Unless they're a slow zombie and they splurge everywhere.
Yeah, and I really think that the biggest thing is in the facial region and getting it somehow into your body, because seeping into your pores really doesn't seem to be applicable for any diseases at this time.
You know what? You never know. You never know.
But since it hasn't been touched ever in zombie fields, it's not something that's really fully...
I don't think I can actually think of a game where there's slow zombies.
Aside from Dead Rising?
Dead Rising? Are they slow in Dead Rising?
Yeah, they're extremely slow.
Oh yeah, I guess they are.
That was the point I made at the beginning. Dead Rising, Left 4 Dead, Resident Evil, they have slow zombies. That's, I mean, what was it? Resident Evil's like 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica. They all have.
But I didn't play any of those.
No, but those are the ones that started the Resident Evil series. There's been just as many slow zombie Resident Evil games as there have been ones with these Los Plaga slightly faster things. But Resident Evil has always been from the start, was from the start, slow zombies only. So there are slow zombie games, but I'd like to see a true survival zombie game, kind of like in the form of something like Minecraft-esque, where you got a first-person type of thing, and you go around and there's tons of materials, tons of different ways to do things, and you have lots of freedom to board up walls, make shelter, maybe a real life day equals like an hour in game or something, or 2 hours or something, and you survive from day to day. Maybe have like a hunger bar and all these things. I was reading online about an isometric type style game that does something like this. It's currently in some beta stages, and that was really interesting. But I'd like to see a real like first person. This is what you do. You take on the roles. You hear sounds. You know, you can only look one way. You can't see all around you and all these different third person over the shoulder things. I want a nice real life perspective of a slow zombie game. And I'd also like to see maybe a real one where maybe they start as fast zombies and then turn into slow. So the farther you get into the game, the longer you live, then they turn into slow. So the threat becomes no longer from living day to day as the Fast and the Furious, but then you start making a more permanent type of home as the best you can. Maybe start building fences around maybe like a countryside home. You have to go into the city though every now and then, and that becomes your trouble, is you have to waste time going into the city to gather materials. And the slow zombies are getting in clusters. You know, all these elements change around you the longer you play.
Dude, I would so buy this game.
Exactly. It's kind of like Harvest Moon, where the game, you go from seasons and years, and it lasts a long time. I'd love to see a true zombie game like that, where they have tons of materials, tons of things you can do, and always growing. Maybe an online thing like Minecraft, where you'll be given new updates with new materials and new content.
See, yes. Also, though, with these, fast to slow zombies, they wouldn't all decay at the same rate. Because, half the world might get changed before, say, another half of the world. You know what I mean?
Yes, or certain areas.
And so, more and more people are being careless and reckless and are getting infected. So there's still, like a few fast zombies running around, but most of them are slow.
Yes, as time goes on, that one or two survivors from each group that then they turn into fast, so there's always a new variable to take into account.
See, however, though, I don't believe that zombies would last more than like a couple months, because eventually the body not being able to function properly is going to decay. It's going to fall apart, and there's going to be no more zombies anymore.
I think what it was, they said if zombies were real, because now because then it gets the bodies change biologically, to what their support systems need.
But their bodies are dead.
So their bodies are undead, but some of the principles, like, for example, there was a man I read about in the news. He's an interesting character. He survived just on liquids, apparently, he did this for about 20 years or something like that. He set some sort of phenomenal thing. And it was just amazing. So the body is amazing on its own, though, being living. But in this undead sense, it takes away your brain aspects. It doesn't make you human in that sense. It takes away your thinking capabilities. It goes to primitive, I need to eat type of logic. But I think what the disease does, though, is it makes you stronger, though, in certain ways. Yes, they're not smart enough to say, hey, let's use a door handle, but their senses are turned off, and I think they're stronger. You shoot them, they just kind of go, ugh, and it doesn't really affect them. They just go, oh, I felt a breeze, that's it. I got shot, who cares? But I think they're also stronger in that sense where when they get shot, when a human gets shot, you're pouring blood, you're getting weaker with every second. Even if you didn't feel pain, your body would be getting weaker. You could shoot a zombie a ton of times, and they don't get necessarily weaker. So I think you also get a certain strength attribute with it. And the same goes for digestion and how that stuff works. So one human meal, could last you for a long, long time. It could be a real long time that seems crazy, because think about a camel. How often does a camel drink? It stores some of that water in its humps, and it goes a long time without drinking. I think zombies, even though they're decaying, I think the decay is an extremely slow rate. And I think I was reading a thing online where it seems to be a lot of people agree that it would take 4 years before the zombies start dying out. And after 10 years, all of them would be died out completely, from little bursts that were still coming up, the people that were short doing it. After 10 years, then you'd have a new world. Yeah, possibly even 20 at the very longest, but I think 10 is what it was when humanity would be safe again.
See, okay, all right. 10 years. Uh, I'm having a hard time with this because
Well, could we say 4 years? I'm feeling a good number from 4.
okay, all right. Let's back this train up here. Primal. Okay, wait. How did you start this?
It's
you
like
said
it's your primitive instincts just to
brain
hunt.
function kind of leaves. You start hunting, but why all of a sudden does it make us crave human flesh? I don't think that's true.
That makes us crave human flesh?
Well, like, zombies. Oh, humans. We don't care about a dog, but like I think they would just kind of crave meat. They would go kind of like back to the primitive, primal, like the most basic must eat.
Yeah,
will eat anything.
I never said that they would just eat humans. I think
no,
they'd eat
I know.
dogs.
I'm just saying, just trying to clarify my thoughts.
They'd probably eat our guinea pig.
You know what? Leave our guinea pig out of this. Anyways, I think pretty much zombies would go back to their primitive state. I do not think they would get stronger. I think because if a virus is going to take over their body and they're technically zombies, then they're technically dead. And if they're technically dead, then they're going to decay pretty fucking fast because they don't have much function left.
Well, who says it has to be fast though? It's part of the virus can make them stronger. That's just like they always say, like, oh, this person's sick. The way we can treat this is if we infect them with the stronger virus first that we already know how to treat. You know what I mean?
But then we're talking about stronger viruses, not stronger people.
But I mean, the virus does some things in the system that they make tougher to get at. There's a reason why we can't conquer some viruses, because they're doing some things that are just too tough. But a virus can be in your favor. A virus can be in your favor, but at the same time, with the case of a zombie, it could be in your favor for strength, but it's not in your favor because it makes you a fucking zombie. You know what I mean? So
okay,
it's kind of like
they're
drugs.
They're gonna be living meat bags.
It's kind of
flesh bags.
It's kind of like steroids. It makes you stronger, but it has some really bad repercussions.
See, I guess I just see zombies as dead, and so that they'll die off fairly quickly. That's why they're fast at first, they're dangerous, and then they start to decay and their body parts fall off and they're getting more juicy, and that's when you have a chance of being infected the most.
So when someone talks to you about, like, how would you survive a zombie apocalypse, you just be like, well, I'd stay in my house for 2 months until we get back to normal.
Well, it really depends on what the zombies were like, I suppose. If it seemed like they were starting to decay, then yeah, I would find some place to hold up where I could survive for a long period of time. And when the time came that I had to leave or move on or find more supplies, I would take the necessary precautions to do so. But honestly, right now, with no zombies to worry about, this is what my opinion would be, my realistic opinion. What it seems to me that your opinion is that we wouldn't actually be dead, we would just be infected, kind of no brain power other than must eat, must survive, and so therefore we'd still be alive, kind of like I Am Legend, but changed.
Well,
because they weren't zombies, but they weren't.
Well, they were like flying and doing all sorts of weird stuff.
I know. I'm just giving an example that they were still alive.
But like I'd still like when you see the zombies from like 30 Days Later and stuff like that. They're decaying. But they were running, right? They were running, but they still had all the stuff. That's what they'd start out as, is what I think, and then they'd slowly progress to the slower and darker and more disgusting. But I don't think this would happen over the course of just a couple months. I think what would happen is we'd be looking at they'd be alive for a couple of years, some of this depending on food source. I think they're kind of like a camel with the food. I also feel that they would start off fast, and they'd go to walking, and then they'd go to the slow little you see in the classic slow, and the transformation would happen over the course of the first year, and then once you get into that second year, then they kind of begin to to die off somewhere between a year and a half to 4 years, depending on how well they've eaten. Because I feel like the more that they eat, the slower the decaying would be. Like, I feel like that the moment you're a zombie, decay begins to happen. But I don't imagine rapid decay. I imagine it being slow, but the more you eat, the better off you'll be, just like a human being would when they're alive. So if one zombie, if you get turned and then you don't eat anything, I think you might decay and be dead after 6 months. But if a zombie eats well, they might have that camel factor where, hey, I ate 3 humans. I'm going to live to be at least a year and 3 months. But then they're like, oh, once the 7th month mark hit, hey, look, I got to eat another human. I'm going to live an extra 3-4 months. So maybe every human you eat extends your life from a minimum of 6 months to adding maybe 4 more months every human you eat.
Okay, see, now you're kind of making it sound like, oh, I eat a human, I'm going to last for this long and I don't have to eat anything. I imagine it would be like, oh, if you don't eat for 3 days, you're dead, kind of thing.
Well, because now you're thinking like a human.
Well, I know, but I mean, if they're still needing food, then their stomach is going to eventually become hungry, and eventually, though,
we don't know what that time frame is because zombies don't exist. But the argument that we have here is that we're looking like we're talking about zombies, right? And we're talking about something that's not real. But most people, when they talk about zombies, they talk about years, like plans like that, and I'm sure that's what the people want to hear discussed.
See, okay, at most, I think zombies would last a year before completely. Okay, maybe not completely, but a single zombie could potentially last for a whole year before, from starting to end. Because, I mean, you have to think that if they can't get a steady supply of food, they're going to go ravenous and start attacking each other, kind of like a rabies type thing. So I imagine a lot of zombies would get eliminated because of, self-infliction and fights between other zombies, etc.
So you provide a very big realistic factor. I guess one thing that the people would like to know is, if someone asked to talk to you about, like, hey, if a zombie apocalypse was going on, and we know zombies are going to be around for somewhere between the next 5 to 15 years, what's your zombie plan? When people talk zombie plan, they don't have, like, a 1-year plan. They have something for, like, a long time. Would you never discuss or be involved in any of these conversations of zombie plans? Or would you do those what if scenarios? But you would provide, you'd say, hey, refer to my podcast about how I realistically feel, but for the sake of fun conversation, this is what my zombie plan would be if zombies are portrayed like they are in the movies.
Okay, if I was gonna have a zombie plan conversation with somebody, say I sat down with you and you would tell me your specifics of what you think zombies would be like, and you and I would both share what you thought on your basis, and then I would share about what I think my basis would be, and you and I would both share our stories again. And
the only reason I guess I asked not to interject is because probably 95% of the people, when they talk about zombies and zombie plans, they think at least 5 years. The majority of people do. I don't think as many think as realistically as you do, even though you're probably more correct than everyone else.
Okay, all right, well, let me put it this way.
I think because it's more fun to talk long term.
Okay, yes. It may be fun to talk more long term. I, however, find it fun to think more realistically because, at any moment, a real disease could take over our planet, whether it's zombie creating or not. But, if a zombie apocalypse really happened, I would be planning for the rest of my life, not just a year, But realistically, with no zombies, yeah, I'm going to say I would really only think it would happen for a year. But if it actually happened, I would be like, fuck, we got to, plan for, 20 million gazillion years, even though I know I'm not going to live that long.
Because we don't know. And
Exactly.
part of it is we're also talking off the top of our heads. We haven't done any scientific research to see what scientists would actually think, because I'm sure there are real scientists out there who have probably been asked these questions, real doctors that were asked these questions, and like what would happen in these types of scenarios or these types of blah blah blahs that we haven't asked anyone, we haven't spoken to anyone, and we haven't done any research with anyone. So this is just talking off the top of our heads, and I do like the realistic approach, and I do like the more fun talking long-term approach, and I like to think that the realistic approach of this is what would happen to the body, blah blah blah, I would hope that's the way it goes, because I don't want to be stuck in an apocalypse for the rest of my life, and that would also give a better chance for humanity too.
Okay. All right. Well, to get back to our original conversation, do I prefer fast zombies compared to slow zombies? Honestly, I like slow zombies because it's kind of like
you said, psychological.
No. Well, yes and no.
It's more interesting.
I like fast zombies. Because then it's like, whoa, shit, I gotta book it through this alleyway, and there's 100 zombies. If they're faster than me, then I'm dead.
I guess when you like slow zombies.
I know. I mean, it's hard to say really what I like. Game-wise, Left 4 Dead, I play Left 4 Dead a lot. I love it. There's really, if they were slow, there would be no challenge. It would be ridiculous. So in that aspect, I like it because it's like you have to plan your moves accordingly. It's not like, okay, let's just run through all these slow zombies and hope we don't get torn up on our way there. Like, oh, sticking out my arm, gonna get you, human.
But at the same time, the game I was fake describing earlier, a wonderful, huge, immersive RPG experience with a vast world and slow zombies, and starting as fast and going to slow and having all these different variables is something that we haven't seen before. That highly interests you too.
That interests me so much. See, I've been saying for a long time, on a little tangent, no, not tangent, that's not the right word.
On a side note.
Side note, yeah. That I would love a game where you could basically do whatever you wanted. Like, you could, just basically live your life. You go to Walmart or whatever, you buy all your groceries. Or, you go to Walmart, you steal everything, and you get caught, and you go to prison, and you serve that sentence. And, where you could go to a real tattoo parlor and get tattoos. Or you could be a criminal, like, kind of like The Sims, but way...
Sims meet GTA.
Bigger, way bigger. Like, you literally go to the store, and, you search for a car, and you work, and... like you actually go to work and you do your job. I mean, that would be really difficult.
Imagine if a bunch of developers came together to make the world's biggest MMO.
Yeah.
And then everyone got assigned different roles, and you work your way up the ladder. Maybe like GMs start at like things like the president and all this stuff. But just imagine like imagine it's The Sims meet GTA meets what's that? There's a PC game. It's one of the biggest. It's like. It's some sort of life game. I don't know what it is.
I couldn't tell
it's
you.
Second Life. Second Life is the name of it. It's like all those three things meet together. And then you have a bunch of people assume all sorts of different roles, like world leaders, blah, blah, blah. And just imagine if you had thousands of people that were paid to take some of the top roles, and everyone else just started populating the world slowly. And you started as a worker bee for this place, a worker for that. And just imagine if you had maybe... the world miniaturized maybe like an eighth of what it is, and then so maybe a custom world, but you have all these different things of that, like Walmart, Target, all these different things. You work in them.
Maybe not quite as real life as that, but anyways, basically
but that would be
a real ass game, but with zombies.
That would be amazing. So you all are then
So, like,
you all start in different places. You sign in, right? You all sign in at the day of the launch of this game or something. That would be amazing if you had like 2 million, 3 million players already. They're at Walmarts or Targets, and then the zombie apocalypse hit, and everyone's in different locations. Mm-hmm. Some are near the outbreaks, some are really far away.
Maybe I don't know how it would work, but I imagine that it would be awesome, and you could really go to like a one of those sports stores where you get all your bats and croquet mallets and whatever. I don't even know, and then that's what you use to beat the crap out of zombies, and you go to like a real gun store, and they have real guns and real things that you can attach to stuff. And
imagine if you were playing it with the Kinect.
Oh my god,
because imagine
that would
doing
be
something like that. Because Dead Rising has those things, but I just imagine if you got to actually control it with a better amount of firmness.
Kind of like, I imagine this would be like a futuristic game, but this is a whole nother topic for another time.
Virtual reality game.
Exactly. But anyways,
for now, we want someone to make that game I described.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think it would be awesome if you literally, you did something bad, and if you were good enough at doing it, then you got away with it, and if you didn't, you went to prison, and, kind of thing. That would be cool, but...
And I still think it would be cool to make that massive RPG zombie game where you can really... where there's tons of things in the game that really, like... Some games say, oh, you can use... everything that you see becomes an object in the game. Well, I'd like to be able to say, like, hey, I have this board, and I want to put it over my door. Well, I want to put it... No, I want to put it 3 inches higher than what... and actually have a little bit more flexibility, kind of like... That wouldn't be too hard to do. You point your pointer at it or something. Say I want the board to go there, and have, like, the door, and it makes, like, a little shadow of where it would be, like a little outline. Because there are other games that already do this. Games where you say, like, where you play, like, Tony Hawk or something, and you want to create, like, a map, the item you have selected is like red or something, and showing, is this where you want to place it, yes or no, and you put where you want to do it. And that would be awesome if you could really use items. Say, well, okay, so I'm gonna nail it to the board. I'm gonna put a couple nails on this side and one on the other because I'm running out of nails, and that makes the other side of the board actually weaker for the zombies to try to push through. Like the little things that we don't think about. Rather than say, hey, this board is up, it's worth 50 hit points. Say, hey, I've got this place completely boarded up. Zombies aren't going to get through it because that's not realistic. But how the hell am I going to get out of here? Something that really makes you think before you do something.
That would be very interesting. Also, though, if, like, basically a whole bunch of people got together and they're like, this is what I think, and this is what I think, and they all put it in a game, and when you started the game, you could pick how you wanted the zombies to act, so that you have all these different scenarios. How cool would that be?
Yeah, so you could play realism mode where they start fast and go slow, and that would be the optimal mode, or you could start with, just have all slow or all fast.
They could be like, oh, well, survey 100 people, and you have those 100 options to pick from, and it builds your game from there.
Yeah.
Like I say, they'll be fast and slow, and this is exactly what they'll do, and this is how quickly they'll die. But, like, quickness of when they die means it's harder. If they're slower and they last a long time, then the game is a little bit easier. Just how do the zombies react when you do certain things? You choose that. Are, the zombies going to fight each other because, they're ravenous and they're hungry? Or are they just going to attack humans because it smells good to them? Or are they going to eat dogs and cats and cows and whatnot because they just need to eat? Are they going to try to eat cardboard? Are they going to...
What's going to happen?
Exactly. Are there going to be mutations? I think that would be awesome. I'm really excited. Like, I just wish I had the skills to create something this awesome.
I like how this isn't even about slow and fast zombies, really, so much as majority's conversation has been.
Well, this is what happens when you get a couple people with a conversation.
Zombies.
Exactly.
I'm not titling this zombies slow versus fast anymore.
It's just going to be zombies in general.
In general.
Exactly.
And we haven't even covered zombie plans. We haven't covered... There's so many different things that we could go on about that we'll do other times.
Yeah, we should have like a sub-series of zombie podcasts.
This is just a general thing, and this isn't even touching on so many different bases. We didn't even talk about one thing that I've always found interesting is how fast do they turn.
Oh. Because
remember, everyone says, because I've been thinking about this one for a while, especially during this conversation. Is, well, first of all, you have 30dayslater.net. I mean, not .net. 30dayslater.net. That's our friend's website. That's Richard's website. 30 days later. Free advertising. They turn pretty fast. You have like 2 minutes or something to say goodbye, and that's it. So then you kill yourself with honor. But then you have something like, take like the game Dead Rising, Frank West, he gets infected. He's a little bit more immune, but he had like 24 hours to live or something. So I mean, there's different possibilities. And one thing that I really want to talk about that you talked about specifically was, what about if infection wasn't just by bite? What if you got one zombie got all up in your face and all this stuff, blah blah blah. It's like, well, what do you do when you get back with your friends and they saw that the zombie was on you? The zombie didn't bite you. All they can do is look at you and say, "We don't know if you're gonna turn or not. Should we kill you now?"
Also, another point, if you've been
big.
infected, because I personally think that it would take a few days, because you're most contagious before you even get sick with a common cold, or at least that's how I think it goes, or like, I don't know, but you're contagious, okay? And it takes a couple days for that, illness to brew. So I think that if you got a zombie illness apocalypse thing, that it would take a few days to stew in your body. Your antibodies would kind of like, come to the defense, and it would hold it back for a little while, but eventually they'd lose because it would start getting stronger and multiplying in your body, and the germs would take over. And
anyways, this is a huge disease too, though.
Yeah, exactly. But also, I think like if you didn't know that you were infected, like a lot of disease would be passed through bodily fluids such as sexual activities. I'm trying to get my wife pregnant, but I'm sick with a disease and I didn't know it, so now my wife is sick too. And so like any surviving groups that may or may not be infected, they don't have to bite each other or turn before they turn.
They could share a drink.
It's already inside of them and they don't even know it.
So they could share a drink or something. So that's why when it first hits, it's very bad, because there's so many.
Because probably a lot of people wouldn't even know they were sick. Like airplane. Somebody gets on an airplane, the air is being recycled over and over again. You get sick. That's just kind of the common thing. Somebody gets sick with a zombie virus, so on and so forth. He comes home to his wife. The wife is having sex with the husband, and the wife is going off and cheating and with another man, and he's getting sick, and so on and so forth.
It's just the whole thing. We're just sharing drinks with buddies, like, oh, what does that taste like? Here, have a sip of my glass.
Exactly. Using the same fork, not fully washing dishes well enough,
So when it first hits, the zombie apocalypse will wipe out so many. That's why it explodes too, is because there are other variables other than just biting and the realistic fact. But there are so many more things we can talk about this.
Yeah, I think we should, make a whole zombie series.
Or something, or revisit this every now and then, because this was way off from gaming a little bit. But that one big thing, if someone made a true, real zombie game where there was one guy that was doing a really good job from what I saw online with an isometric point of view, but I'd like to see the real first-person point of view where you play, and this is it. Because the heck, even a new zombie game came out last week.
What was it?
Dead Island.
Oh, yeah. I've heard a lot of people are loving that game, but I haven't seen anything about it.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
What do you mean you haven't seen anything about it?
I haven't seen any previews as far as I'm aware.
Well, I know I've seen, like, some people playing it. What was that? I saw couple of JTV casts. I saw it's all, like, for example, Simon and Lewis from the Minecraft people. They've been doing a series on it right now. I haven't watched any of their episodes. I've seen a couple trailers for it on game trailers about 4 months ago. So you're just not exposing yourself to it is all.
Well, one of my friends did say it was a mix between Left 4 Dead and Dead Rising, and it was both of them put together. And he did happen to say that it was the best game he'd ever played, and he doesn't really say much about games like that. He just doesn't care.
But at the same time, there's also a lot of critics that are mixed about it too. It is actually all over the board. But we'll have to do a little bit more research on that so we can have another zombie game under our belt. But
that would be awesome.
I still think there needs to be a true big zombie RPG because if they can make games that are on such amazing scales of Oblivion and Fallout, there should be a game where you could have something that big of a land dedicated to zombies. Because and there'll be no fast travel in that either. So having a real full-sized game, if you walked from every inch, corner to corner of Fallout and Oblivion, that's a big distance. So if you had something given to me that big, You have a nice RPG where you're just surviving and you're a normal human being. That could be a big thing. You could have leaderboards for who survived the longest, things like that. You know, every additional day you survive is something more, and there will be hunger bars and things like that. That way you couldn't just lock yourself into a room and then
nutrition, too. If you're malnourished,
you're gonna suck in battle maybe.
Exactly.
You'll be alive, but you're gonna do horrible in battle. So while you may be keeping your days up, you're not. And so there's all sorts of things, and there could be maybe ways to do farming and things like that, but it takes a long time to get that. So this could be something that truly is. You could put a literal 100 hours into this game and still be going strong, just like in Minecraft or something.
And still barely have just been started, you know.
You could still be going. You could just be getting your farm beginning or something, planting seeds, and then have weather come along and screw you up. Mm-hmm. So, should we end this podcast? We're at 45 minutes now.
Probably. I mean, I'm just so enthralled with this conversation.
It's just amazing, I know.
I don't know. I guess. I don't know.
We're gonna need like our two different zombie things. We're gonna have to add a thing on the website where we both have our zombie corners.
God, that would be awesome.
Maybe in the future we'll have some zombie corner type things where we both have a bi-weekly or something. Here's this week's Foisco zombie tip or something.
Like, Foisco's weapon of choice, kind of thing. That would be so awesome.
And every week you update your profile or journal about how realistic a zombie apocalypse would be, and then you could say like, today I actually looked online and saw some real doctor research and all this stuff. So we might have some. This sounds like it's gonna become a real section.
You know what?
You and I could both update.
We should make this awesome game, because I think we both kind of were on the same wavelength.
Except we don't know.
Wavelength.
Except we can't make a game.
Well, we can find people to help us make this game. It might have shitty graphics, but it'll be the best game ever, I promise.
Yeah, I don't even care about the graphics. I mean, just slap on some GameCube graphics and it'll still be fine. I just want the content, like where literally there are so many little things that you may ignore, like, oh, there are 23 nails in this box. Small things like that, like, oh, there's a couple on the floor that I can barely see because the lighting is poor in here.
And then you're walking around in the ground barefoot and you step on one. Oops, infection.
Yeah, exactly. These things, like your shoes get worn and stuff too. So you need to something that you might forget to do is every few months get some new shoes or something. So you might want to stock when you finally get a more permanent residence. Have some extra clothes there or something, because then you also have to be concerned with washing your clothes, because if you're wearing dirty clothes after a week, then they'll start to really get dirty, and then they'll attract flies and bad health and all this other stuff. So there are real things to take into consideration here.
Also, if any of you have played Left 4 Dead 2, okay, just had to go there. And the one little part, I'm not sure which campaign it's in, but where you have to go get the guy his Coke, so that he'll blow up the tanker truck so that you can get around it. Seriously, in real life, climb over it or roll under it or something. Go around it. Do you know what I mean?
There are other ways to go around. It's not like a dam. It's not like a giant fence.
Exactly.
There are other ways to go around, climb over his fence to the other yard or something. I don't know.
And it's like, if this was a real game and that was the case in this one game, you'd be like, oh, do you want to climb over it and keep guard for your friends so that they can roll under it? Or do you want to just roll under it and, hey, maybe there's a zombie hiding there and you don't know? Or, just kind of whatnot. Like, it gives you all these options and you basically choose the best one.
And seriously, if the guy can't get a Coke, I mean, he's not going to survive much longer. That guy is an idiot.
No kidding. But I mean, why endanger your lives when you can just as easily go around something? I wouldn't put stupid things like that in the game. Not to belittle Left 4 Dead 2, but I want a game that is realistic.
And that's why we need this true RPG experience.
Mm-hmm. I would make this game like 1,000 hours long. Don't care people can waste their lives all day.
Well, I mean, just with some of the, with how much detail and time could be spent making it, like they do Oblivion and all this other stuff. Like, apparently some guy compiled all the writing in Oblivion, and actually got all of it, got it all typed up, and printed it and made a manifest, and it was really thick. It was really thick. Like, take something...
A whole ream of paper?
Like, take one of the Harry Potter books, and it was double the size.
Holy crap.
Literally. And we're talking... The paper was printed on regular paper, the 9x11. So we're not talking regular book size. We're talking big size.
Regular printer-size paper.
Yeah, with images in it, too, and everything. And it was huge. So, I mean, if you took that time instead of writing stuff there, put it in some other form, like items and all this stuff. Maybe you could put some people's journals or diaries or stuff scattered too, but you could really make a true big zombie game.
You make a killing, but I'm bumped.
Well, I mean, you could make it, and that was horrible. You could have this huge game that would satisfy everyone. Where this would be for the hardcore people, but then you could have some other modes where you don't need to wash your clothes, something for the more casual player. You could have all these things, but have the true hardcore mode that builds around these elements that even the casual player, though, they'll want to step up so they can extend their gameplay. And then, let's say they put 30 hours into that before something, they finally said, all right, I want to make it a little bit harder. Then they'll put another 40 hours into the next difficulty. And then the next one would be the one that's supposed to, the real, true, hardcore one that's all realistic and all that stuff. You would get so many more hours out of that, plus with what you already put into the previous difficulties. And if they're always adding little things here and there, and there's always more content to look forward to, little DLCs that they can add and expand to it, and how hard it is, and how you want to get this farming stuff or you want to do it will literally be a game that you could pay $60 for and get well over, I think, over 300 hours of entertainment. Because I'm pretty sure Harvest Moon for the GameCube, once you're finished, it's 300 hours. Harvest Moon to the GameCube. To go to the end of the game is 300 hours. It gets a little repetitive at times, but I'm thinking, if they, after all these years, kept adding little DLC type things or something or whatever, and they
maybe like adding a new weapon to a certain store and you gotta go find it kind of thing.
Or anything, like any sort of those things, like there's new territory to explore. There's so many different things. If you take a big name studio that makes big developed games and then keeps developing them over time, then you could have something truly amazing. And I bet the same company could then take something around and make an online game too. So then those would be the two perfect things, an online one and a nice solo one, where you maybe...
They could have, multiplayer like they do a lot of the time and change it up a little bit, so you pick a certain amount of time and you partner up with one of your friends and see if you can really do it, and each time you kind of challenge yourselves,
it'd be cool if they had a multiplayer mode, you connect it over Xbox or PlayStation or something, and then and then you could save your file. But the only way is if someone logged off, then it would save the game and end it. And the only way that you could continue your multiplayer file is if both you and your friend, the two of you that were playing together, are on at the same time and said, get into a party, and so put in the games, and then you go to select the game, and kind of like joining a lobby. So, you create the game, the other person joins the lobby, and then you start at the same time, so you both continue at the same time. So it'll always just be a multiplayer thing between you and your friend. Where there's no weird things, you know what I mean?
No weird variables.
Yeah, like you and your friend did something together on 2-player to speed something up, and then it's just you and then just him on your 2 separate things, and then you guys all of a sudden have an uber advantage at the beginning, or it becomes...
and no one can come in and, screw it up or something.
Yeah, or have someone new and then so then you're better off than what your friend was, because your inventory might have some better things or something,
Right. I kind of like it. I like it. Somebody out there, make it now.
I know. Oh, I can't believe we're 54 minutes into this almost.
I can't believe it. Let's go for a solid hour.
No, let's not. The upload's already going to be horrible.
Oh.
So
the upload isn't anything when it comes to our loving listeners.
This is our 3rd podcast, and we're already great. We could have made 3 more out of this. It's amazing. Oh.
Well, okay, fast zombies or slow zombies? What's your answer?
Slow. Well, actually, I like the realistic start fast, go to slow. I am a fan of that ever since you introduced it.
See, I kind of like it.
But I like the several year plan.
Okay, several year plan, but fast to slow.
Yes.
I agree, but that was my original point from the beginning.
Well, yours is also more realistic. They'll be gone after a year.
But if I had to choose, I guess I would say fast zombies, because you have to have more strategy involved. You gotta be like, no, we can't go down this way because there's 100 zombies. We'll get mauled in an instant. We gotta climb over this truck because, whatnot.
And since they don't have pain, they'll have the advantage in the long run. They don't get tired.
I think they could get winded, but they'll just be a little bit better at not getting wind. I don't know.
Because it's just like when they get shot, they just go, ugh, they just fumble back for a second, but then they keep running at you.
Well, see, that's your point of it. Maybe, if you shoot them and they fall apart. I don't know. Maybe.
But when they're whole and fast.
I mean, because if they're like spewing blood, you think that he's gotta weaken them. But I mean, if a zombie is a real zombie, would he really be spewing blood? Would his heart still be pumping?
Who knows? These are interesting things. We'll have to look at it from different points, like another time with like a mini series, like under these factors, under this. Because I'm pretty sure like 95% of people look at slow zombies, several years, they don't feel pain, and there's probably a couple more general things I'm forgetting. But when you think zombies, most people, I think of that image. I mean, I'm sure you understand that too.
I do. I do understand the general populace.
You choose to go think of the realistic route, but when people think zombies and you were to join a conversation or something, you'd understand to join in with assumingly under not to say their conditions, but what the general conditions are. When someone are talking about zombies, and you join in.
I mean, I'm open-minded. If somebody else has a different opinion than me, I'm gonna sit down and listen to their opinion. I'm not gonna, judge them and be like, oh, you're wrong and this is how it's really gonna be, because that's just kind of stupid.
Yeah, if you like joined a group and walked up to them and all 6 of them are talking about, let's say you have a group of 6 or something, all 6 of them are talking about a slow zombie apocalypse. You're over listening, you're understanding what the condition is, and then you join in talking with their conditions rather than just be the one man out. I mean, you'd say in the end you would do things differently, but you wouldn't try to brush that on them, and you wouldn't. If they spend an hour long talking about these things, you wouldn't spend an hour talking about yours, because they probably wouldn't care at the time. They want to talk about just a specific thing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
and if they ask me, I'd be like, yeah, this is what I see, but let's continue talking about your way,
Yeah.
I mean, because it's the whole point about the zombie apocalypse conversation being so fascinating is hearing everyone else's little details that maybe you didn't think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what makes it fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. And then generally, the fast versus slow is, I think, the one big defining thing, because I'm sure most of them, whether they're fast or slow, say, okay, they don't feel pain and it would last a few years. Like, there are certain things that fall under both groups, but fast versus slow in the past few years seems to have really had a big resurgence in talking points, because that completely changes your plan. Completely.
I agree.
And fast to slow, that does too. That's a third ball game that I think that no one talks about, and I think that's the one that's the most interesting.
I think everything is interesting. I mean, for instance, you, when planning your zombie plan, might not think that you would take supplements, vitamins, etc., to keep your body up so that it's not malnourished, maybe even though you're not eating as well as you could be.
I would. I take Tums and
I'm just saying,
and fish oils.
Where I would, think that, or maybe vice versa, or you would think, that you're going to go get fishing wire and a fishing pole, where I would be like, well, why would you need a fishing pole? Kind of like, you just might have different ideas and different, like, oh, this is a good idea, and I'd be like, oh, I never thought of that.
It's just like real life with everything else.
That's what makes it interesting.
Exactly.
That's why I enjoy talking about it so much. It doesn't matter what my views are. It's about
what
saying
everyone else's are.
Exactly, because what's the point?
Because
if you're
then-
like, oh, I'm right, this is what they would be like.
Because
Well,
you can store it in your memory bank for next time.
we'd never know.
To change and enhance your opinion.
Exactly. It's like a game of Pokemon cards. You trade, Pokemon cards to build your deck.
Yeah, and
You
slowly,
trade-
the more trading you do, the more you there's certain core elements that you keep, but then there are certain little things that change, and it makes it more refined.
Exactly.
There we go. Anyway, so now we're just about to hit the hour point of our podcast.
I won. I made it to an hour.
Oh, well, no, you haven't. You got 30 seconds more to go.
Okay, well, alright. This is
So-
VoiceGo from Monitor.
And I'm Link584 of Monitor.
And I hope you really enjoyed our conversation about zombies.
And if you're listening to this around Halloween time, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy
Kwanzaa,
Kwanzaa. Happy
whatever.
New Year.
And if send
happy
us,
4th of July.
hold
Independence
on.
Day.
Okay, if you have any opinions or things you want to bring up or things you want to hear us talk about, send us an email on our website, to monitor@yahoo.com, I believe it is.
Yep.
Send us your input, and we would love to talk about it. We'll mention your name if you give it to us, and
leave a comment below. And if you're watching this on YouTube,
we'll talk about this. We're gonna make this shit interesting.
If we make this, if this turns out to be a big popular thing, we might make a zombie email at some point. Who knows? But this seems like something that we are highly interested in doing. So if you're watching this 5 years down the road, and we've already done that, don't send us the email to monitor@yahoo.com. Check to see what we've done first. But
just keep up with us. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions.
This is late 2011 right now that we're in. Just keep that in mind when you're listening to this.
Yeah. So send us a shout out and we'll send you one back. Thanks for listening. This is To Monitor.
Woo!
Yay!